"You ever think about stopping?" she asked. "Stopping what? Running, hiding, living like this?" He looked at the horizon, a long, unwavering line where the sky met the earth. Thought about it. Decided this is stopping. She let out a soft, surprised laugh. It was the first real, genuine laugh he'd ever heard from her, and it sounded like a small bird taking flight in the vast quiet. "You call this stopping? Better than moving." She fell silent, her gaze following his to the endless prairie. The wind whispered through the tall grass, carrying the scent of dust and distant rain. "I used to think if I ran far enough," she said, her voice barely above the wind, "I'd leave the past behind. Turns out the past has longer legs." He looked at her then, really looked. Her profile was strong, with a determined jaw, but her eyes held a deep, settled weariness. Strands of her hair had come loose from their braid and danced in the breeze. "Past don't have to win," he said, the words simple and solid. She turned to him, her eyes searching his. "You believe that? I'm trying to." That night, for the first time, she didn't sleep on the cold floor. In the deep dark, when the only light came from a sliver of moon, she came to his bunk. There were no words exchanged. Just her hand, finding his in the blackness, and then her mouth. It wasn't a desperate or hurried kiss. It was careful, gentle, like two people testing the thickness of ice before daring to cross. His old dog, Slate, who'd been sleeping at the foot of the bunk, lifted his head, watched them for a moment, and then lay back down with a soft sigh. Afterward, they lay side by side, listening to the symphony of the night. The relentless wind against the cabin walls, the steady chirping of crickets, the lonely howl of a distant coyote echoing across the plains. "I'm not good at staying," she whispered into the darkness, the confession hanging between them. "Neither am I," he admitted, "but I'm willing to learn." And so, summer deepened around them. The prairie, once a stark and empty canvas, exploded into a riot of color. Wild roses bloomed in thorny patches, their delicate pink a stark contrast to the rugged land. Fiery bursts of paintbrush and spears of purple lupin painted the landscape. They fell into a rhythm, working side by side from sunrise to sunset. She learned the subtle language of the place, when to move the cows to fresh pasture, out to read the mood of a coming storm in the shape and color of the clouds, where the sweetest, darkest choke cherries grew thick on the bushes. He taught her how to handle a rope, how to build a loop and swing it with purpose. She laughed, a full-bodied, easy laugh this time, when her first successful throw ended up around Slate's confused, furry neck instead of the fence post. The old dog just wagged his tail, happy to be part of the lesson. Together, they built a small addition to the cabin, a simple lean-to room with its own window. It was her idea. She paced out the dimensions. Her boots, leaving marks in the dirt, and she helped him notch the logs, her hands growing calloused and strong. When it was finished, she found a scrap of calico fabric and hung it over the window. A small, bright flag of domesticity against the wilderness. "It's not much," she said, looking at their handiwork, a touch of apology in her voice. "It's ours," he answered, and in that moment, it felt like everything. But peace, like a summer storm, can pass as quickly as it arrives. Trouble came in August, riding on the heat waves shimmering off the parched earth. One morning, a rider appeared, a stark silhouette against the rising sun. He was dressed entirely in black coat, black hat, riding a black horse. He stopped a good 50 yards from the cabin, keeping his hands in plain sight. A gesture of polite, yet menacing, professionalism. "Morning," he called out, his voice carrying easily in the still air. Rafe stepped onto the porch without a word, the familiar weight of his rifle in his hands. Slate was beside him, a low, guttural growl rumbling deep in his chest. A moment later, Cora appeared in the doorway behind him, the double barrels of a shotgun resting across her arm. The home they had built had become a fortress. "Looking for a woman," the rider said, his eyes flicking from Rafe to the figure in the doorway. "Name of Cora Hale. Her brother owes a debt, a big one. Figured she might know where he went." The air grew thick and heavy. The crickets went silent. Rafe's grip tightened on his rifle, his knuckles white. The past hadn't just caught up. It had ridden right up to their door. He could feel Cora's stillness behind him, the tension coiling in the small space between them. For a long moment, the only sound was the wind, whispering secrets they had tried so hard to bury. He knew this was it. The ice they had been testing was finally cracking. The man in black wasn't asking a question. He was making a statement, and they were going to have to answer. Thanks for watching. If you want to see what happens next, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell.